So this is my science section, starting with biology. We have the Enchanted Loom by Jastrow. I think it was written in the 70s. It's about evolution, and it's got pictures in there, and it's a very nice, very easy to read basics of evolution and the progression of bacteria into modern man. So it was very good and easy to read. Next book is Edward O. Wilson's The Future of Life. I haven't read that one yet, but I have read his Consilience, it's called, and it was his theory of trying to bridge the hard sciences, or just science in general, and the social sciences. So, and it was an alright book. It's fairly long, but yeah, I haven't read the one there, The Future of Life. Next one there is John Maynard Smith's The Theory of Evolution. So I haven't read that, but that's that's a staple of evolution. Next is Carl Sagan's The Dragons of Eden. So Carl Sagan has all kinds of books on science, most famous for his astronomy books, which I'll get to later. But that one is about, I think, evolution, so that's why it's there. I have a couple. The brown one there is called The Morning of Mankind. It's about anthropology. So it has pictures in there of prehistoric man, and I think there's cave paintings and stuff like that in there. So that's what that one's about. Next one there is The Lost Dinosaurs of Egypt. So that was just a cheap modern book I picked up for probably $2 or something, about archaeology in Egypt and I guess the dinosaurs. Next one, Language Instinct by Steven Pinker. I suppose that could be in another section. I do have a psychology section, but it is about language, and I guess I put it in the biology section. I've only flipped through it. I have more to say about Pinker when we get to the blank slate, which is in my psychology section, but that's also by Pinker. And so now the astronomy section. I've got a few by Carl Sagan here. So there's Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot, A Vision of the Human Future in Space. So I haven't read it, but that's what that's about. Space and exploring space. Carl Sagan's Cosmos. I started it, but I haven't. I need to come back to it. I probably will start it because I just finished a bunch of books. That's his most famous book, is Cosmos. So yeah, next is The Whole Shebang. This is a book I used in university for a first-year astronomy class. It's just a basic text on astronomy, nothing really substantial in there. Next one is The Case for Mars. I read about, I guess, a quarter of it, probably about 5 years ago, and it's actually really interesting. It's by Robert Zubrin. It's about how, I guess, maybe 10 years ago, or I'm not sure when, maybe in the 90s or something, he makes the case that we had all the technology to go to Mars, and we should have done it already. We should have been there with human beings, he means. So I know just, 6 months ago, they've landed a robot on Mars. But anyways, he makes the case that we could have done that with human beings like we've done the moon. We could have done that 20 years ago. So next one is Isaac Asimov's The Solar System and Back. So I'm pretty sure that is not one of his fictions. He has all kinds of fictions called the Foundation series. And but anyways, I don't think that's a fiction, the one there. So that one should just be on astronomy, but I haven't read that one. Next one is Are We Alone by Paul Davies. I haven't read that. It's supposed to be about that question. Are we alone? The possibilities of existence and other of life forms on other planets. The possibilities, the probabilities, because you can't be too far out from the sun, or you don't have much energy to do anything. You don't have much energy for molecules to get together. And if you're too close to the sun, then proteins denature, right? There's too much energy. So there has to be some kind of balance in the middle there, which is that band, and I can't remember what they call that band in our solar system, that sustains life or has the ability to. I think, the main consideration of that band is actually that water is liquid. But does that truly limit the possibilities of life? I don't know, and we may find out that there are other ways of life. Also, I should come back though. I forgot I have the origins of species in the bottom here of my bio section. It's a giant one. It's got nice colored pictures in it, so it's a nice tour of the origins of species by Darwin. That's one everyone should have. Another one here, Newton's Clock, Chaos in the Solar System. I'm actually not sure what it's about. I picked it up because I thought the title was interesting. It's probably about Newton, and it's by Ivers Peterson. It's probably about Newton's work and maybe some mystery behind Newton. I don't know. And last for astronomy, this is more physics, so I guess these two were physics. This one is David Harriman's A Logical Leap. So this is an objectivist work, which and I know quite a bit about objectivism in their work, so that's why I picked that one up. I did pick it up from a used store, though. I certainly didn't go pay full price for that because I wasn't really that interested in it. But it's supposed to be about induction, the problem of induction, and how to get beyond that problem. The problem of how can we be certain, even if something happens every day, like the sun comes up every day, how can we be certain that it'll come up tomorrow? And so how do we dissolve that problem? So that's supposed to be what that one's about, and I think I will get to that someday because it is a problem. And okay, now we have, this is general science. So Bronco's Brain, also by Carl Sagan, Reflections on the Romance of Science. I haven't read that, so I don't really know what it's about, but if it's Carl Sagan, you can't really go wrong. So I'll get to it eventually. Here's Carl Sagan's The Demon-Haunted World. This is probably his next most known work. I actually let me see, maybe 7-8 years ago, I used to watch online, there was an institute in I think it was California. There was these conferences called Candle in the Dark, and it was mostly about science versus religion. And Carl Sagan wasn't involved because he wasn't alive. But there was some interesting stuff in that conference that I used to watch. I know Sam Harris used to be around in that. But that is, I think, the Candle in the Dark subtitle of that book inspired those conferences. So you should have I'm sure if you Google it, it would come up. But so yeah, that book is, I haven't read it, but I'm going to read it, and it's certainly about science as progressing humanity, and well, I guess the environment of humanity has thus far been religion for thousands of years, and science being a new creation and light to brighten that world that science has darkened, that religion has darkened, such as the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, where so little had been done, and that's why it's called the Dark Ages. It's so interesting how religion uses light often, and now science is now using light, and religion is as darkness. So, all right, next is just it's called Little Book of Big Ideas. It's just like a 2-pager of a whole bunch of different people that were great minds in science. So that one is just a survey book. Here's The Discoverers by Daniel J. Borston. That is also on the same lines. It's just obviously spends a lot more time on them, but I haven't flipped through that. That'll take a while to get through, but I imagine I won't treat it as a book. I'll treat it as a textbook or a reference book that you'd go to for something specific, and you wouldn't read the whole thing. Next is a book on Lavoisier, which was a famous French biologist. So I thought I would get that one, but a lot of these books I picked up for cheap, either online or in a bookstore on sale for like $2 or $5. So a lot of the ones that aren't so specific and I haven't read are probably ones I picked up for cheap. And so Freemasonry, the next one is Freemasonry and the Birth of Modern Science. That's something I've had for actually a long time, and I haven't been through that one either. There's Butterfield's The Origins of Modern Science. So that is a book about history of science, and there's another book I want to get, which I haven't yet, is Dampierre's History of Science. That isn't the title though, but it's something like that. But it is interesting, the progressive science, especially with this Carl Sagan's Demon Haunted World. It is interesting how science came about in such circumstances. So, anyways, that is the science section.